Okay, in this first week, this first video for week 4, uh, I wanna go over some different line type commands for you, and then we'll get into some more specific things. Now, the things that I cover in these first few videos, they may not go in the order that the exercises are given in the textbook. So I'm giving you these videos kind of as a visual learning prompt, if you will, so you can see it happening, but I need you to work through the exercises in the book because the book may have some more clarification on some of the things and some of the options. And then the exercises you've got for this week are really, as best I could duplicate what is in the textbook for you to do. So some of them you'll start with a blank file. Some of them you will download a file and complete the exercise in that file. Okay. So to start with, I want to go over some different line things, and I've showed you line in the videos from last week. So and we'll come back to line in just a moment, but let's look at polyline. Now, a polyline it works just like the line command, except for everything that you do is one object. Okay, and so when I select that, you can see it selects the whole thing. Whereas if I use the line command, each segment of the line is an individual object. Well, the biggest difference between these is a polyline takes up less memory space in the file than the line command does, which on the drawings that you're going to do in this class really doesn't mean that much. But if you're talking a big project like an architectural project or something like that, then the memory, the size required, becomes an issue. And honestly, drawing architectural drawings, it's better to use the polyline command to draw the walls, because you can draw like the outside, the exterior side of the exterior walls. You can draw that to the correct dimensions for it, and then use an offset command to copy that to the inside, the correct distance, and then you've got your wall thickness drawn. Now we'll cover that when we get into the chapter on architectural drawings. But that's how a polyline works, and you can still trim on a polyline. If you need to convert a polyline to regular lines, you select it, and then you use the explode command, which is right here, this little box with the sides showing out. And so you can explode it, and now you've got individual lines. Okay, so that's pretty much, and there's a lot of other things that go into the polyline, but that's a basic to get you started with it, okay? The other is a construction line. And let's see, in the toolbar, it's right here, construction line. The shortcut command is X line. If you go into the panels, you got to hit the pull down, and then it's right here, construction line. Okay, and what a construction line command does is it creates a line that goes from infinity to infinity. Okay, and by default, you pick 2 points, and it will draw a construction line basically from infinity to infinity in whatever direction that you've shown. I find it most useful to use the options down here, either horizontal or vertical or angle. I mean, bisect, sometimes, the offset, sometimes, but usually I'll use horizontal and vertical. And so I'll start the construction line command, and then I'll go H for horizontal, and then I just click, and it places a horizontal construction line. I can do that again, vertical, and it'll place a vertical construction line. I can do it again with angle, and it wants to know the angle of my construction line. So I'm gonna say, I don't know, 51 degrees, and then you pick a point that you want it to go through. Okay, so that's construction line. The other, which is very similar to it, is called array, R-A-Y. And up here in the pad, it's next to construction line. Okay, and what it does is it starts at a point, and then you have to pick what direction you want it to go into. And when it asks you to specify a point, it's giving you a distance there. The distance is irrelevant. So I'm just going to say 10, tab, 0 degrees. Okay, and you see it created a line that goes to infinity starting at a particular point. Okay, now when we start doing our orthographic drawings, you're going to use construction lines, or you can use rays to project, like from the front view up to the top view, or from the front view to the side view, or side to top, vice versa, so that you can project measurements into the other views so that you've already got them. Okay, so now let's look at the line command a little bit more so. And remember, we talked about absolute versus relative versus polar. And just as an example for you, you're going to be doing exercise 4.1. And so I'm not going to work through the whole thing, but I am going to do pieces of it so you can kind of see. And so if we want to start at an absolute value, since we've just started the line command, we can do 2, 2 and then enter, and that starts my line command at the absolute coordinates of 2, 2. And if you look at this exercise 4.1, it tells you where to start, what direction to draw, what dimensions to draw these things in. And so we'll turn on ortho mode, so F8 on the keyboard, and then we'll just use direct entry to work on some of these things, since they're all perpendicular to each other. So it's 0.5, 0.5, and then we're up 0.875. Now let me zoom in on that a little bit more. Then we go over 0.75. And of course down 0.875 again. Over 0.375. Okay, now I'm going to depart from the way the drawing is, and I'm going to jump on over to the right hand side there and show you the polar to get the angles. And so I turned off ortho mode. Well, I need to leave it on. I got to go one more, so we'll turn that back on and go up 0.5. And now we've got a polar mode, so I'm going to turn off my ortho. And it's 35 degrees, which is a kind of an unusual angle. So our preset for polar tracking won't necessarily work on that. And so since I am going up, I want to just pull my mouse up in that direction. And it's going to go a distance of 0.75. I'll press the tab key, and it's asking for the angle above the x-axis, which in this case will be 35. And I'll press enter. Now the next one, it's an angle of 35 above the x-axis, but it's in the opposite direction. Okay, and so I can pull my mouse back over here if I want to, and let's give it our distance 0.75. We'll go tab. But if I just type in 35 degrees, it's basically going to be the same as the other direction. So what you want to say is, you got to remember back to some geometry that you should have taken in high school, middle school maybe. And a straight line is 180 degrees. This needs to be 35 degrees above the negative x-axis. So I just subtract 35 from 180. Okay, and that gives me 145 degrees. And press enter. And then there's how you draw that. So you gotta do a little math on it sometimes. Up on the upper left side and on the left side there, you've got some lines where you've got dimensions in an x direction and in a y direction. And so here you'll use relative coordinates. And so let me start my line command. I'm going to start here, and I'm going to come up 0.5 and turn off ortho mode again. And now it's telling me I want to go 0.625 to the left and down 0.25. So I want to type in negative 0.625, comma, negative 0.25, enter. And then that draws my line to the left and down. Okay? So that's how you would do that when you have those two dimensions that are just x and y directions. And when you're working through this one, when you get to that point, you could stop your line command and go back to the very beginning at 0.2, and start working your way up to that point, and then when you get to the end, you connect those 2 points together. One of the things, remember back in the line command, you've always got the undo option that will back you up one space, but it keeps your line command open. So you could press U on the keyboard, enter, and it just backs you up one line segment at a time. Okay, I think that pretty well covers everything I want to talk about on lines. But do work through the exercise in the textbook so that you get a feel for how that absolute value and relative coordinates work and the polar coordinates, okay?